So what's the first thing? The first thing I would do is rewrite these two in terms of sine and cosine. What is cotangent equal in terms of sine and cosine? Cosine over sine. So I'm going to write that as cosine over sine. So I have a cosine over sine. And then it's minus cosine cubed x. And what is cosecant in terms of sine and cosine? Who agrees that it's 1 over sine? All right. Okay. So now let's look at what we have at this point. We have a fraction, and we're subtracting these two. They're being multiplied together. In order to multiply fractions, do you need a common denominator? No, we could just multiply this and make this one single fraction. So I'm going to multiply cosine cubed times 1, and it'll be over sine. So that's going to give me cosine, oh, I forgot to put the x down here, cosine minus cosine cubed, and that's all over sine because we have our common denominator. All right, what do we do now? Look in the numerator. Let's think in terms of factoring. Do we have a greatest common factor in the numerator? And again, this is the same as saying x minus x cubed. That's what that is saying, x minus x cubed. So what can I factor out? A cosine. So when I take out the cosine, I'm taking that out. And then remember, this is still all over sine. What do I have at that point? What's left inside of the parentheses? So again, and I need more than just Lance and Marcus. I need more people. So Ibrahim, what do you think would be left if I take out a cosine? Cosine squared. So we gotta, so right here, because I'm taking out, because this is 3 cosines. So I'm taking away 1 cosine, which is going to leave me with 2. So you're right, it is going to be a negative cosine squared. And what about here, though? Because what is cosine if I take out a cosine? What do you think is a 1? Yeah. Okay. Well, we making some progress now. So now let's look at that pink sheet. And we used this on the last test, so you might recognize this already. But what is 1 minus cosine squared equal? I just want to make sure I heard you. But I want to give everybody a chance to look on your pink sheet. And I think it's under variations of Pythagorean identity. Okay, so it's like the third bold section down on your pink sheet. So what is 1 minus cosine squared? So Nathan, what's 1 minus cosine squared? Sine squared. So this here is going to become a sine squared. So what I have here is I have a cosine x, and I have sine squared. And that's all over sine. All right. Is there anything else? Because when you simplify, you just keep going until you run out of moves. It's like a game of strategy, I guess. Can I do anything else? Anybody over here? Will, Josue, Angelina, Natalie, Catherine, any ideas? What can I do next? Griffin. Anything else that I can do here? Because I have a sine squared, I have a sine, I have a cosine. Can anything go away? Or is this it? What can I do?
You can divide sine squared by sine.
Yeah, you can divide the sine squared by sine. Because what you really have, and sometimes I actually write it this way, because I think when it says sine squared, maybe we don't know what that means, but all that means is I have sine twice. I'm going to actually write it that way. That's what that means. So I can cancel that out. And now I'm left with just what? a cosine times a sine. Is there anything else I could do? Or is that the end of my moves? That's the end of my moves. I have simplified it. So cosine times sine would be your final answer. Let me zoom back out so you can see the whole picture. So today we're going to start verifying, which verifying may be a little easier because you know what the end goal is. Simplifying, we just keep driving until we run out of gas. But for verifying, we know we're trying to get from A to B. And we just keep making moves until we reach that. All right, so let's go ahead, take a minute. And you already, these are the verifying rules. But this first step is the same thing for simplifying. But the only thing that's different is you're only going to change one side. So I don't want you to copy down both. I only want you to copy down one at a time. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to copy this. Copy down number one because I don't know how much space it's going to take. So now if you want to draw a line, we're verifying. So in other words, I know this is what I have. This is what I'm trying to get to. And I have to show how I can go from here to here. And I think we kind of did something close to this. So after you do that and you copy down number one, go ahead and take a moment and start rewriting. Rewrite cosecant and rewrite tangent in terms of sine and cosine. And remember, we're trying to show, and you have to show me. And that's important because it's kind of like I'm giving you the answer. So you can't just say, oh yeah, this equals secant. No, you have to show me how it equals secant to get your points. Because we know the answer is secant. So your steps have to make sense to me on your how you travel to get to that point. Yes. Oh. Okay. So cosecant equals what? How do we rewrite cosecant? 1 over sine. And then how do we rewrite tangent? Sine over cosine. And we know that when I'm multiplying these two fractions, I can cancel out the sine, and I'm left with 1 over cosine. And 1 over cosine equals what? secant. So that is how you would show me. Secant equals secant. That is what I would be looking for. All right, let's look at number 2. Take a minute and copy that one down. And then I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes to just try it. Because our next test is it's like just 2 weeks away. I think it's 2 weeks from yesterday. No, from today. Today's Wednesday. Yeah, it's 2 weeks from today. So we really don't have a lot of time before our next test. So you really kind of need to practice. Just practice doing it, and if it's wrong, erase it. Now remember, for this one, you're adding, so you need to get a common denominator. So I'm going to give you a minute and you have to show your work. Yeah, like showing them over and over again, they just have to try. Okay. Yeah. So now you see how these have the same denominator? You can bring it together and make it one fraction. And just have this plus this over this. So don't do this. That's not a good term. Okay, yep. That's good. I mean, with that homework, you might have to do it on another sheet of paper if you feel like, if you run out of, you have to just try it. Like, this is one of those things that watching me do it, I could do 100 million of them. You just have to get comfortable with it. Like, and that's how you get better. This is gonna be our last question we're gonna do together, and then you're gonna use the rest of the class time to work on homework 9. I see a couple of people got to the end though. This is good. So now you have to show me what this equals, which is on your piece of paper. So what are you gonna multiply this by? Yeah, and what are you gonna multiply this by? You need a common denominator. So if this has a denominator of cosine, you should multiply this one by cosine. This one has a denominator of sine, you should multiply this one by sine. So it's kind of the same thing if we were to have numbers like 4/3. So when you got to that point, if you were to have, like you're adding 2 reciprocals, right? So if you were adding this, what would you multiply this fraction by? by 4. Because what would my denominator be? My common denominator would be 12. So I would have to multiply this one by 4. And what would I multiply this one by? You're going to do the same thing. Except you're going to multiply one fraction by sine and the other one by cosine. That's what you're going to do. You're adding fractions. So then the only thing I would kind of want you to show me is that this kind of breaks apart to 1 over cosine and 1 over sine, which becomes secant cosecant. But that's good. But I'm really happy with the work that I saw so far. Raise your hand if you made it to the end. Who needs another couple minutes? All right, I'll give you another couple minutes and then we'll work through it. Okay, so we have sine over cosine plus cosine over sine. So we have to add fractions, which means we need a common denominator. So this first fraction, I'm actually going to multiply it by sine. And the second fraction, I'm multiplying by cosine. So that's going to give me a fraction. This is my denominator. My denominator is sine times cosine. So I'm going to actually just write that down. Sine times cosine. And then when I go across the top, I have sine times sine plus cosine times cosine. So sine times sine is sine squared plus cosine times cosine, which is cosine squared. So we have reached a point where we actually have an identity. And what does sine squared plus cosine squared equal? 1. So that means I have 1 over sine times cosine. And when you have a fraction like this, which I know it could be kind of, I always try to relate it to numbers. So if I have 1 over 12, I can break that apart to 1 over 4 times 1 over 3. So I'm really breaking that apart. Okay, I'm breaking it apart to 1 over sine times 1 over cosine. So this fraction is going to split to 1 over sine times 1 over cosine. And we know that 1 over sine is cosecant. I should actually write it the other way so that it's in the same order, but we're not that picky. But it's technically the cosine x should come first and the sine x should come second. Only because in my what I'm trying to verify is that that secant is equal to, that is equal to secant times cosecant. So 1 over cosine is secant. And 1 over sine is cosecant. So I did prove that. I made it to the end. And that would be my final answer. So again, with verifying, I know where I'm trying to get. With simplifying, you just keep driving until you run out of gas. All right.